I've been waiting to talk about this. In the world of Japanese role-playing games, Shinichi Kameoka is an icon of the Golden Age. And while you may not recognize him by name, you'll definitely recognize his art style if you're familiar with the Mana series or anything related to Brownie Brown. Now, I've written a lot about this guy, and I mean a lot. An academic essay, a biographical article, and even a full translation of an interview. There is no artist on this earth I admire more than Kameoka. And you're about to know why. I'm Magic Windtalk, and on this episode of Windtalk, I'll be talking about Shinichi Kameoka. Also, as a foreword, it'll kind of be a rehashed version of the biographical article on Kovopedia, but I mean, it doesn't really matter because I wrote the whole thing. Shinichi Kameoka was born on March 23rd in the early 1960s in Bunkyo, Tokyo, Japan. He started drawing as early as 4 years old, doodling his favorite Ultraman characters and Tokyo Metro lines. Around 1981, he graduated from Tama Technical High School in Fusa, after which he pursued illustration at Chubi Art Academy in Nerima. Then, once he graduated from Chubi around 1985, he kicked off his career as a manga artist for Big Comic Spirits and Shonen Jump. Inspired by Japan's tough guy, Yankee subculture, these comics followed characters such as baseball players and underground boxers. Here you can really see the foundations of his current style, especially in the eyes. But when serialization ended in the late 80s, he continued to mail his artwork to magazine companies, and made a living by working part-time. Something stuck out to him though. He noticed that manga about businessmen were rising in popularity. So in order to gain experience as a salaryman and incorporate it into his comics, Kameoka began skimming through employment magazines, and there he came across the advertisement that changed his life. A job posting by Squaresoft featuring artwork by Yoshitaka Amano, asking for graphics artists to work on Final Fantasy IV, their upcoming title. Surely enough, after submitting his portfolio, Square hired Kameoka and a bunch of other fresh faces. And if you know your Final Fantasy history, you'll know that one of these new recruits was my goat, Tetsuya Nomura. But sadly, Kameoka did not get what he wanted. Since FF4 was nearing completion, he was instead tasked with troubleshooting. According to him, the new recruits had very little to do in the office. Hell, they couldn't even turn on the lights. Don't worry though, he wouldn't stay in the special thanks credits for long. At this point in our timeline, we're at about 1993, amidst the development of Seiken Densetsu 2, or as it's known overseas, Secret of Mana. The project was originally named Maru Island, which would utilize an add-on for the Super Famicom called the CD-ROM. But as you may know, the CD-ROM was scrapped and the Maru Island project came right to a halt. From there, the Maru team would be split in two. One became the Chrono Trigger team, and the other the Seiken Densetsu team. Chrono Trigger's development was a little delayed, mostly because its lead character designer, the late Akira Toriyama, was preoccupied with the Dragon Ball manga. As for Kameoka, who was on the Seiken team, he whipped up some drafts for the player characters of Secret of Mana, Randy and Prim. He was spotted by the game's producer, Hiromichi Tanaka, who saw his drawings and was basically like, "Hey, these are pretty cool. This is your role now." So, with the success of Randy and Prim's designs, Kameoka would provide pixel art for all the characters in-game. Now that I think about it, maybe that's why Randy and Chrono look so similar. Kameoka reprised this role for the next game, Seiken Densetsu 3, or Trials of Mana, but in this case, he only did character concept and pixel art, while the designs were finalized by Nobuteru Yuki, my other goat. A few years later, Kameoka did art direction for Saga Frontier on the PlayStation, designing sprites for characters illustrated by Tomomi Kobayashi, my other goat. For this project, he was paired with his new lifelong companion, Koji Tsuda, a highly talented background artist who refused to do art direction for Final Fantasy VII. The two immediately clicked and basically had to support each other during Frontier's development. You see, I like Saga Frontier as a game, but the detailed 2D sprites with these clunky pre-rendered 3D backgrounds are a little bit jarring. Wanna know why that is? Because director Ashitoki Kawazu pretty much said, screw it, let the art team do whatever they want, prioritizing the in-depth mechanics that the Saga series is known for. And once they escaped Saga, their magnum opus was on the horizon. Tsuda talked to Koichi Ishii, the creator of the Seiken Densetsu series, and a new entry was greenlit. One of Squaresoft's most experimental, atmospheric works on the PlayStation 1, Seiken Densetsu Legend of Mana. With the commencement of this project, Kameoka and Tsuda had full creative liberty, able to realize their artistic vision to the fullest. And it was at this point where Kameoka truly found his identity as an artist. God, I've rambled about this at least 100 times, but this was the era. Muted, yet flavorful watercolors, textured like clay models, crosshatch shading, geometrical patterns, natural earthy elements, big clothes, accessories. I could talk about this for a hot minute, but that would take way too long and lead to my opinions on the Hakan redesigns, which I don't really mind, don't get me wrong. It mainly has to do with their appearance in the Teardrop Crystal anime, which were adapted by Taro Ikegami. Now, unlike Saga Frontier, Legend of Mana would place more emphasis on its visuals, characters, story, and world building. And what would a vibe-centric game be without the melancholic storytelling of Nobuyuki Inoue? and a vibrant soundtrack by Yoko Shimomura. Although Legends development was a little hectic and a lot of decisions were made last minute, the sprawling world and non-linear storytelling seemed to fall into place by the end, completing this storybook come to life. Now, allegedly, before Legend hit the shelves, Kameoka was told that if it hit a certain number in sales, the team could begin work on a potential sequel. And despite hitting that goal, Square. They instead sent Kameoka to work on more Final Fantasy. Because, oh boy, Final Fantasy VIII was popping off, riding on the coattails of 7. And at this point, Kameoka knew that enough was enough, and he was in dire need of a magical vacation. But that'll have to wait until next week. Stick around for part 2, where I'll cover the rest of Kameoka's history from 2000 to present time. Thanks for tuning into Windtalk, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be notified for new episodes. Take care, everyone.